For more, I'm joined by U.S. Congressman Raja Krishnamoorthi of Illinois, who serves on the House Intelligence Committee, and, of course, Cynthia Oxley, former federal prosecutor. Thank you. You two should be able to handle this. First of all, the political or psychological. Why is the president now so hubristic, so proud of himself, so freedom-minded that he doesn't care what he says? He's now saying what he's lied about, apparently lied about for months, that Rudy Giuliani was his man in Ukraine. Congressman.
Well, I think that he's emboldened because he was acquitted. And, you know, this follows a typical pattern for the president where he first denies that he did anything. And then he later says, even if I did do it, it wouldn't be wrong. And then later he says, I did it. So what? As I think Congressman Amash pointed out before. And that's what's going on here. He clearly sent Rudy Giuliani to Ukraine to conduct these investigations. And the new piece of news that we learned today is that apparently not only is Giuliani continuing these investigations, but the DOJ under Barr has set up some kind of special back channel where he can provide this information to the DOJ. Perhaps, I think I heard the office in Pittsburgh is somehow receiving this information, which is very, very disturbing, to say the least.
Well, Cynthia, what do you make of that? What do you make of that suggestion box or dirt box in the DOJ out in Pittsburgh, where if Giuliani has got some dirt or smear he wants to do on one of the president's enemies or rivals, he can just throw it in the box and throw it into the system?
Right. It's amazing. It's just amazing that the FBI isn't involved. You know, it didn't occur to anybody that we have an entire criminal justice system that handles situations, but instead the president likes his buddy Giuliani, and it's not working any other way. And they don't like the prosecutors that they've had in the past that have said there's nothing to any of this. And so Barr has gone forum shopping. He not only is looking for attorneys to come in to work with Giuliani, but now he's also bringing in special groups to overlook the Flynn case. And he's trying to get do-overs on anything that the president's not happy with. You know, Andrew McCabe today, they couldn't get an indictment on McCabe, and so they said that he wasn't going to be prosecuted. Meanwhile, we find out they're bringing in other lawyers to relook at the whole situation, and it's a bait and switch. So it's so sad for those of us who love the Department of Justice to watch as an entire generation of children, of millennials and the new generations are reared in a world in which the Department of Justice is a political weapon and not a place where justice is administered fairly and impartially.
Congressman, what do you make of the fact he's out there going after his enemies, using Rudy Giuliani to dig up dirt or to smear people he doesn't like Joe Biden and his family, and also the fact he's out there apparently reviewing all these cases where he might be able to spring one of his Trump's people, like Flynn?
I think it's deeply disturbing. I think at this point in Congress and the House specifically, we have to exercise aggressive oversight in a way that perhaps we didn't do even before. I think that, you know, these folks at the DOJ are going to come to us for more money. They're going to come to us for new programs. They're going to come to us for modifications of old programs. And I suspect that my colleagues, especially on the Judiciary Committee and other committees, are going to condition some of what they asked for on, quote unquote, good behavior. And we're not seeing it right now, to say the least.
And that's going to happen, you believe? You're going to basically squeeze him a little, or basically punish him a little, Congressman?
I think that at this point, we cannot have taxpayer dollars aiding in lawlessness. This is misconduct, you know, with a big M. And I think at this point, we have to do whatever it takes to, you know, prevent the worst excesses from happening further.
Well, during the president's Senate impeachment trial, the trial part, House Manager Hakeem Jeffries of New York warned of the potential consequences of acquitting the president for abusing his power and soliciting a personal benefit.
And if this Senate were to say that's acceptable, then precisely as was outlined in that question could take place all across America. The president could say, you're not going to get that money, Mr. Mayor, Mrs. County Executive, Mrs. Town Supervisor, unless you endorse me. The president could say that to any governor of our 50 states. That's unacceptable. That cannot be allowed to happen in our democratic republic.
Well, that's one of the heroes, of course, of the House operation, the investigation, of course, the Senate trial, Hakeem Jeffries of New York. And now the president is being accused of looking for a quid pro quo with the state of New York. He suggested a link between his administration's decision to bar New Yorkers from joining trusted traveler programs like Global Entry and the state's investigations into his personal finances. Get it? Quid pro quo. They shouldn't be doing that. I'm going to punish them. Ahead of a meeting with Governor Andrew Cuomo just yesterday, Trump tweeted, he must understand that national security far exceeds politics, adding New York must stop all of its unnecessary lawsuits and harassment. Cynthia, what do you make of that little quid pro quo? The president's making it more difficult for New York State citizens to travel because he doesn't like sanctuary cities or he doesn't like their prosecution of him.
Right, exactly. And he's tweeted before that they're too interested in his lawsuits and his investigations. It also shows a fundamental misunderstanding of the way our government works. I mean, Governor Cuomo is not in charge of those lawsuits. That's the Attorney General. He just doesn't understand how things work. He believes what was said in the impeachment trial, which is anything that is in his interest is acceptable. That's essentially what the argument was at his impeachment trial. And that's what he believes. And I agree with the congressman. They're going to have to be much more aggressive. All the people involved at DHS in shutting down these trusted traveler programs, they should be in the Congress this week. Those United States attorneys who were forced to resign because of the Stone case, they should be in Congress next week. We need to shut down financially the Department of Justice. We need to be more aggressive, and we haven't been enough.
Thank you so much, Cynthia Axton, of course, U.S. Congressman Raja Krishnamoorthi. Thank you, sir, for coming us from Illinois.
Thank you.
Up next.